The Minding Your Business podcast is brought to you, as always, by Brooks Brothers Consulting. Brooks Brothers Consulting was started by my brother Philip and I back in June of 2013, and we specialize mostly in leadership talent development for new and existing executives, directors, managers, and business owners. Leadership is so critical to any organization, and as we go further into the 21st century, it will only enhance. And you need to have the right mentor and the right partner to help your team, as well as yourself, move to that next level. You can reach us at www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com. That's www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com, or you can email us at info@brooksbrothersconsulting.com. On today's episode, I'm very excited to speak on sports and society, and we'll talk about how various sports figures are using their social media platforms to present awareness to the masses and the controversy that surrounds such. But first, let's hit the music.
What we do here is go back.
Yes. Welcome to the Minding Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Ron Brooks, and so delighted to be here, actually coming to you on an unusual day. Typically, I come on a Friday, but this past Friday was just so crazy with business and a lot of different things going on that I'm actually coming to you on a Sunday, February the 18th, 2018, and I won't be with you long, but I did want to share some valuable content on a particular subject that's near and dear to my heart as a former athlete, and that's sports and society. And it's been widely talked about here over the last couple years as you've had sports figures such as Colin Kaepernick, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers franchise, and now is no longer in the National Football League, the NFL. And he used his platform to raise awareness around various social issues. And you've seen athletes kind of take a turn with that I want to speak about today. But first, I did want to make a brief kind of introduction in terms of I went to see Black Panther on Thursday, which was the pre-screening the day before it came out. And man, I'll just tell you, it was phenomenal. If you haven't seen that movie, you should go see it. I'll have another podcast episode where I'll go into more depth. This is not a spoiler alert, so don't worry about that. But definitely you should go and see this particular movie. It is a very good Marvel picture, as just an excellent cast. And I really think that you would definitely enjoy it. So get out there and see it. It doesn't matter where you're from or how you look or any of that kind of thing, or you don't really have to be the biggest superhero comic book fan, but nonetheless, it is extremely good movie, very well acted, great plot, a lot of plot twists and things like that that go on. So definitely make sure that you get a chance to go out there and see that. I really encourage you to go do that, and it's going to be just phenomenal. So get out there and go see the Black Panther movie. Has some good business. I mentioned Brooks Brothers Consulting earlier, and so that is definitely something that you should get out there and see is Brooks Brothers Consulting. That's brooksbrothersconsulting.com. I've mentioned that already. But, man, I had a great week with some fairly large clients, actually two fairly large clients, well over $100 million in annual sales that we've had the opportunity to contact and make some headway with. And so I am extremely excited about that. You all just don't know how excited I am about that kind of opportunity, mainly because of what it means for the business, and it's a great opportunity for us to kind of expand and expound on our skill sets. Being myself and my brother from a consulting standpoint with leadership consulting. So, great thing there. But again, today's topic, sports and society. There was an exchange between a Fox News anchor by the name of Laura Ingraham and NBA superstar LeBron James of the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise. And I want y'all to hear this because it speaks to several things that I want to address with this particular topic that have kind of come to a head, and some things from the sports standpoint and things from a societal standpoint. So listen to this. This is an exchange presented by Laura Ingraham on Fox News this past week.
We're going to create a new banner. This is a jump doc alert. NBA superstar LeBron James is talking politics again.
I know you guys are excited to see her. I didn't know you guys would be excited to see me too, but thank you. As much as you guys would love to hear from me, I would much rather love to hear from our next president, Miss Hillary Clinton.
Now a historic moment. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency.
And this time it's R-rated. Here's his barely intelligible, not to mention ungrammatical take on President Trump in a new ESPN podcast.
The number one job in America, the point of person, is someone who doesn't understand the people and really don't give a about the people.
But wait, there's more gripping insight. ESPN host Carrie Champion asked James and fellow NBA star Kevin Durant about what she described as Trump's racist comments.
I feel like our team as a country is not ran by a great coach.
It's not even a surprise when he says something. It's not even a surprise. It's like laughable. It's like
it's laughable.
It's laughable and it's scary.
But it's also scary.
Right,
because
right.
I shouldn't be numb to your racist comments.
Right.
I shouldn't be numb to your behavior.
I'm numb to this commentary. Like, must they run their mouths like that? Unfortunately, a lot of kids and some adults take these ignorant comments seriously. Look, there might be a cautionary lesson in LeBron for kids. This is what happens when you attempt to leave high school a year early to join the NBA. And it's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball. Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble. We'll be right back.
Okay, so that was Fox News anchor Laura Ingraham speaking on a recent show that had ESPN host Carrie Champion, as well as LeBron James and Kevin Durant. They were riding in a car. Carrie kind of does this segment where she acts like she's an Uber driver and kind of drives NBA superstars. At least that's what she's done so far around. And so during that exchange, that's where you heard LeBron and Kevin speak on their displeasure with the current president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And so Laura Ingraham on Fox News decides to make that statement. And that's a very controversial, very ignorant statement, in my opinion, for a number of reasons. One, she has to get her facts straight. Neither LeBron James nor Kevin Durant left high school a year early to go into the NBA. Matter of fact, Kevin Durant went a year at college. He went to the University of Texas. and he entered the NBA draft in 2007 after his freshman year. LeBron James did graduate from high school, and then entered the NBA draft the summer of 2003. And both are still healthy and widely regarded and arguably the top two players in the entire league, the National Basketball Association. So her comment to say just shut up and dribble really sparked something in LeBron and sparked something in a lot of athletes and really created a social media storm per se over this past weekend. Of course, it was overshadowed by the Black Panther opening and a few other things, but nonetheless, that's what you got. So next thing I want you to hear is kind of a rebuttal from the team that's on TNT, which is Ernie Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and Kenny Smith. I want you to hear their exchange rebuttal. Very interesting.
So there was a media availability today, and LeBron James finds himself in the middle of a controversy after he and Kevin Durant carry champion. Have you seen what the video they shot? They're driving around Cleveland, visiting some of the spots that were pivotal in the career and the development of LeBron James. And in the course of the conversation, he said the climate is hot, the number one job in America. The appointed person is someone who doesn't understand the people. Well, he doesn't give a blank about the people. When I was growing up, there were like 3 jobs that you looked for inspiration. The President of the United States, it was whoever was the best in sports, and it was the greatest musician at the time. You never thought you could be them, but you can grab inspiration from them. Both LeBron James and Kevin Durant were critical of President Trump in the course of that interview with Kerry Champion. And so then if you were seeing it, and I encourage you to get on the computer, watch all 15, 16 minutes of that, and then the response on Fox from Fox News from Laura Ingraham was this. Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. There was a reference that Durant had made to, it's like you have a coach who's not very good at it. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble. That from Laura Ingraham. And so the response today from LeBron James to that.
We're back to everything I've been talking about over the last few years. So it lets me know that, everything I've been saying is correct for her to have that type of reaction. But we will definitely not shut up and dribble. I would definitely not do that. I mean too much to society. I mean too much to the youth. I mean too much to the to so many kids that feel like they don't have a way out, and they need someone to help lead them out of the situation they're in. The best thing she did is going to help me is create more awareness. So I appreciate her for even giving me even more awareness, for me to sit up here in the greatest weekend of the NBA All-Star Weekend. This is the best weekend of the NBA, where all the countries in the whole entire world come watch the greatest players in the world, no matter if they're a part of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And I get to sit up here and talk about social injustice, equality, and why a woman on a certain network decided to tell me to shut up and dribble.
I watched that. I watched what Durant and LeBron said with Kerry Champion in that car. I don't know if you guys have watched that video. And there were strong takes from both of them on the president and on the state of the country right now. And that's the thing about this country, is we can do that. We can voice our opinion on that. I was so stunned by the personal nature and kind of the closed-minded and condescending response that Laura Ingraham had, because at one point she took off on Kevin Durant for his grammar, and it was, look, hold my mic for me for 1 second, because I've been saying this. There's way too much of this these days and not enough of this when we're trying to when we're trying to talk about things that matter to us, everybody's like, no, you got to believe what I believe, and if you don't, I'm going to attack you. We don't have to do it that way. You can disagree. Hold on one second, Chuck. You can disagree with what Kevin Durant and LeBron James said. You don't have to make it that way. And it was disgusting to me to watch that response.
Ernie, don't be getting emotional over Fox News. Fox News do what they do. Nobody pays Fox News any attention but people who voted for Donald Trump in that segment. I mean, I don't even break a sweat. Those people aren't going to change. Fox News, they do what they do. I mean, they're not trying to be conciliatory. They're not trying to make friends. They do what they do. Listen, I'm not a big fan of the president, but he gonna do what he wants to do. He doesn't really care what anybody thinks. But I'm not gonna overreact. First of all, LeBron James is LeBron James. First thing I would have said, who's Laura Ingraham? If she was in this crowd right now, we wouldn't know her. If LeBron James walk around, these people would be mobbing him. But Fox News do what they do. You know, I laugh. Like sometimes when I want humor, I turn on Fox News.
You didn't find "shut up and dribble" offensive as it can possibly be.
That's what she was trying to do. What, you think she was trying to be friends? If somebody's trying to make me mad, I'm not going to get mad. She did exactly what she wanted to do.
You know, everyone, of course, is entitled to free speech. First of all, I would like to see her tell LeBron, shut up and dribble in front of LeBron's mother. I'd like to see that.
No, we don't want to see that.
But no, I mean, I want to see, guys want to be smart, and they want to run their mouth, and they want to do certain things. I agree with Ernie. Ernie can say what he wants to say. I can say what I want to say. We don't have to agree, but you don't have to take personal shots at people. And that was very upsetting to me a little bit. But, LeBron's going to continue to do what he does, and, he makes great valid points. Everybody feels the same way he does. He makes great valid points, and he's allowed to express that. But, when people go personal, that ain't right.
Yeah, I don't know Laura Ingraham at all. I don't know her personally. But to me, it was one of the dumbest statements I've heard, only because of this. It actually contradicted everything that she was saying. She's saying that you shouldn't be able to talk while she's talking about it. So it's the double contradiction. It's a contradiction of actually what you're saying. And secondly, the shut up and dribble comment just exposes her in terms of, I think when there was my dad was growing up, and there was, and then it was the 60s and 70s, I always called it the tidal wave effect. If you see people, you could see what they were talking about because you've seen the dogs, you've seen people chased in the streets and all those things. We're in the undercurrent now of the ocean, so to speak. It pulls you in and you don't know sometimes it's pulling you. She just exposed herself in terms of, I'm part of that undercurrent and that tidal wave. And that's what I think about not just African-American people, basketball players. She's thinking of people in general who are not like her, or don't think like her.
But listen, if you look, Kenny, I think that we as people got to be smarter. People want to get a rise out of you.
Yeah.
President Trump.
It's like the person on Instagram.
Yeah. That's why I don't do anything.
Right, it's the person that has 8 followers, and they say something about the highly touted people.
President Trump has made it perfectly clear he does not like Hispanics. He does not like Muslims. He's made it perfectly clear. And that's his base. Fox News is the number one for that base. So when they say stuff, I just take it with a grain of salt. They never trying to be civil. There's a certain faction. President Trump has emboldened them to say it more. But I don't waste a lot of energy. I call it wasted energy, overreacting to, like, say, Ernie, Laura Ingraham, I didn't even know she was alive until you brought it up.
I'm just saying millions of people are out there seeing that, Chuckster.
They want to.
I'm just saying it's not like it's going out in a vacuum. People are seeing that. Look, my point on this thing is, look, don't belittle a person like LeBron James and Kevin Durant because their diction or their use of grammar is not as good as yours, and do not belittle them in saying that an athlete is only good for dribbling a basketball. Look at LeBron James' body of work. Look at D. Wade's body of work. Look at a lot of the players in the NBA's body of work when it comes to social issues, when it comes to helping communities. Come on.
Well, I think
we're better than that.
I think that's
better than that.
I think that's also.
Ernie, let me ask you a question. You think if one of these players said something that Fox News agree with, you think she wouldn't say that? She wouldn't tell him to shut up and dribble.
I know.
That's my point. So we ain't going to waste our time with Fox News.
And lastly, about, one thing I had to learn as well, I grew up in New York City. And I went to the University of North Carolina. And then all of a sudden I heard people with Southern drawl. In Southern drawl, I used to say, wow, man, they talk so slow. Maybe they aren't as quick, until I started getting my papers back and they were getting A's and I was getting C's and C pluses. So then you go, oh, well, the diction doesn't matter in terms of the educational value of what goes on. And then you come to Los Angeles and everyone has a different way of talking. And you go to New York and they talk faster. And it's where you are, and you don't have appreciation for the people that are different from you. That what dictates who you are. Anyone can agree with the people who are like you. I can easily say, oh, me and Chuck, oh, wow, we play ball. Oh, we're both black. We're going to have a same attitude. But it's when people are different from you, that judges your character, how you treat them.
And there's way too, and look, we'll close this out. I know we got to go to break, but there's way too much of groups just insulating themselves. Like, if you're going to think like me, I'm going to hang with you. If you're going to think like them, I don't want anything to do with you. And that is no way to go, and that's no way to make progress. And every time I see it, it makes me sick. Anyway, we're going to go to break, and we're at All-Star Weekend, and we're going to talk some hoop. We're going to talk about what's happening here on All-Star Saturday night at Staples Center.
Okay, so that was the team at TNT. Your Ernie Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, and Charles Barkley give their take on this whole ordeal with Laura Ingraham at Fox News and then LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Here's the deal. I agree with virtually everything that all four of them said. If you take what Shaq said, definitely there's that part of me that says, hey, if you're willing to be that vocal, why don't you come and say that to not only the man's face, but say that to his mother's face and then see how that goes over. I'm definitely all for that. And I think if people had to do a little bit more of that, if they had to face people, which is one of the things I'm going to talk about here in a minute when it comes to social media and what it's taken away, is that that common human interaction of face-to-face contact. And it makes it then a little easier to make comments when you're not looking someone in the eye and having to face up and stand by what you say, and you've got to say it to somebody's face. So that was more of Shaquille's look. Charles, I agree with as well. I think that platforms, whether it's a Fox News or it could be a CNN, it could be virtually any kind of platform, some are in the business of stirring up the pot and getting people riled up, getting attention and things like that. So many of y'all know about that. And so that's nothing new. And that's become more of a thing as the world has become that much more sensationalized and hangs up on the comments of certain individuals. And you see that in sports, you see that in politics, you see that in a lot of different arenas. And so to Charles's point is, why get all upset and emotional? And he was referring to Ernie Johnson's comment in terms of the impact and the offensive language and offensive tone that Laura took on her Fox News segment. And Charles's point is valid. Hey, why get all upset about that? You know what they do. That's what they've been doing. They've been doing that for, a little over 20 years now, where they want to try to excite. They have a certain base of people that are followers of them. And, that's something that, and then when you look at Kenny Smith's comments, he was a little more personal in terms of his time at North Carolina and things like that. But him and Ernie kind of had that same point of, this society's become very segmented. I actually posted about this on my social media, on Facebook, that people have over time have become so segmented into agreeable affinity groups, meaning that let's all kind of insulate ourselves in a certain group so that we all agree, we're all of the same mind. And then they expanded that to not just be in agreement, but then we all fairly look alike, right? So we insulate ourselves in the bondage of familiarity and agreement. And what happens with that is then we're not open to the diversity. We become closed-minded. And then anybody that doesn't fit in our affinity group, whether they don't agree, whether they don't look like the kind of people that agree or whatever it is, then they're shunned. And then there's this adversarial kind of approach, which you see in politics. You see that in sports. You see that in the media and things like that. And one of the things that I would encourage you in your business as a best practice is not to get so much hung up into that, and don't try not to segment yourself into agreeability. Yes, as business owners, we want to surround ourselves with like-minded people and people that are also about business and things like that. But don't get so hung up in trying to do that to the point that you take away any kind of diversity and diversity of thought, and not just in appearance, but people who see the world different from you. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing. You don't have to be disagreeable, and you've always heard that as a cliche, but it's fine to be in a room where you don't agree. In business, we are aware of this because innovative ideas come from that diversity. They come from people who may not see eye to eye on certain things or have a view of the world that contrast each other, but nonetheless, they're able to sit down and be heard. And what happens is you find that your perspective sometimes can be shaped or even changed based on the views of others. And if you're open to that, you'll find that there's a wealth of education that can come from that can even help you improve. But people who segment themselves tend to believe that they're already have arrived and there's nothing else for them to learn, and that everybody else outside of their agreement affinity is an enemy. So it's either you're for or against me. So everything's very black and white and very limited in that aspect. And so oftentimes when you do that, sure, you can be right in some aspects, but you can also come out looking like an ass too. In a lot of aspects as well. So, I agree with the gentleman on TNT, and I think that whole interaction between LeBron James and Laura Ingraham is just going to continue through the week, and you're going to have people on different shows, whether it's First Take or the one with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp on Fox, and some of the sports shows, local commentary, national commentary, Will Kane and some of those folks. I'm sure they're going to be on this subject for the next couple of days. Like I said, my personal take is that kind of like Charles, don't let them get you riled up. She's looking for attention. Nobody knew who the hell Laura Ingraham was. I agree. I certainly did. I'm not a big Fox News watcher. I do look at it sometimes because it's good to know what all sides of an argument or a viewpoint, how they see it and how they view it. And what's their approach? It's good to me for that education. It's hard to have a holistic understanding of something looking at it from one side. And so it's the same for your business. Your business can stifle, whether you're in real estate or whether you're business, whatever it is, it can stifle when you're not willing to have an open mind towards contrasting views that may not support your upbringing, may not support your family and friend system or where you're from or where you're educated. So definitely, be open-minded to that. And I encourage you to do that in your business, and then encourage those within your business, whether it's your employees, your vendors, other owners, whatnot, to have that diversity of thought. Doesn't mean that everybody in the room looks different or has this. That's great. But you can have diversity without it being different so much in appearance. Although, again, they tend to go hand in hand, one and the same. There's one other thing that I want y'all to hear, and that is this actually aired tonight. It was actually called Sports and Society. It was hosted on TNT during the same broadcast for the All-Star Game by Angela. What's Angela's last name? I keep wanting to say Angela Lee, not on the Breakfast Club, but it wasn't her. But it's got Dwayne Wade and Chris Paul and a few other are on this panel, and they're talking about their various foundations, and they're talking about how they use social media as a platform for sharing their social thoughts on various subjects and things like that. So it's very interesting. I want you to check this out.
Welcome to Sports and Society. This is a conversation today to help us understand the important role that athletes play in today's tumultuous society. So I want to just jump right in, Chris and Dwayne. A couple of years ago, you all had a really powerful moment on stage with Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James.
We stand here tonight accepting our role in uniting communities to be the change we need to see.
So when you think about that moment, how did you use it to work towards combating the issues that we're facing today and to challenging your peers?
You know, we just came together to talk about all the things that was going on in the world, to talk to athletes about using this platform, about doing more in the community. So, you know, that was just kind of our voice, just to really talk to the athletes that was there and athletes around the world. And that's just not professional athletes, it's everybody who has an inner athlete in themselves to do more.
So, Chris, with that, we know that activism in sports is not a new thing, whether you're talking about Muhammad Ali, the 1968 Olympics, Colin taking a knee. This is something that is, I think, close to the heart of many athletes. You get to a point where you have to speak up. What would you tell your fellow colleagues who aren't engaged in that work?
I think along with what Dee said, it's not what you have to do, it's what you want to do. You have to want to speak up, letting your voice be heard.
So Valerie, you were a senior advisor in the Obama administration, the White House as well. You're a senior advisor to the foundation. We know from all of the work that you all did that the president certainly understood the influence of athletes, and you all leveraged the influence of athletes for several initiatives. Can you talk to us about some of that?
Yeah, part of why I'm smiling, Angela, is just listening to Dee and Chris talk about their sense of social responsibility and recognizing that they have a very powerful platform and they want to use it to be a force for good. You can't do it if you don't care about the issue, and so what we want to do is to excite them into figuring out what can they do to help a young person, inspire them, not just to go into sports, but to be a better man, be a better human being. And as these guys know, as well as Alvin, President Obama created the My Brother's Keeper initiative while he was in the White House, and he's continuing it now. And athletes have been major players in addition to the NBA. Adam Silver has been terrifically supportive, and the whole point of My Brother's Keeper is to help our boys and young men of color get a fair shot. And we know that they're not getting that fair shot, but everyone around this table can help.
Alvin, you all have partnered with Dwayne and with Chris to do some very powerful initiatives, talking about race, dealing with having societal impact in communities. Can you talk about the importance of athletes having that kind of impact in communities all over the country?
What we decided to do about 10 years ago at the foundation is to really center all of our work on behalf of young people around this understanding of racial equity, what it means to look at the challenges that young people face through a lens that asks questions about systemic racism and through a lens that tries to provide answers that are also systemic in nature. And what these two great men have done is that they've decided to leverage their fame and their deep concern for young people to really, bring into communities all over the country, but specifically where they have presence, programs and initiatives that are really geared toward giving opportunity to young people that they wouldn't have otherwise. And that is certainly at the heart of an initiative that we're most proud about, which is our Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Initiative. And we're also really working very hard, and this is something that Chris and Dwayne do so well, in encouraging people to step outside of wherever they are and get involved, engaged in working on behalf of their community.
What are some of the most tangible, specific actions you're taking right now to not only combat racism, systemic oppression, but also anything else that you're doing to just make the world better?
So in our Spotlight On campaign in Chicago, there was a kid named Tabuka Evans. He's a kid who was homeless, but he's just one of them kids that you talk to him, you got inspired by his knowledge of the world, his knowledge of like who he wanted to become, and
it's like he already knew. Like, I'm going to be this and I want to be this, but not having the resources and opportunity. So with our resources and opportunity, I got a chance to bring him to China and give him opportunity to sit in our design sessions, get him opportunity to sit at the table next to me and have feedback on the things that that has been designed for me, give him opportunity to just go around the world with me. And I thought it was something that was very impactful for him. The letter that he left me, after that, I can tell that this is something that has changed his outlook on not only life, but on people that, he probably lost hope in people. And I felt like he picked that hope back up that someone really believes in.
I love that. One of the other things your foundation is doing is Pitch Black, which was a partnership with Harvard Business School. And I love that it's in response to all of the folks that talk about black on black crime in Chicago. You responded in a very impactful way that's solutions oriented. Talk a little bit about Pitch Black and the importance of that work in Chicago.
Angela, that's just what it is. It's all about solutions. We can all talk about things, but we don't have solutions for them, then, it's no point. So I have an unbelievable relationship with Harvard and Harvard Business School, and got an opportunity to sit down with the African-American student body and talk about ways that we can bring different programmings. What can we bring to Chicago to kind of help the epidemic of violence that we're dealing with? And I thought it was great that our kids got opportunity from the Waysworth Foundation to go up there and really talk to the Pitch Black group about the city of Chicago, about the way they're growing up, about how they're growing up. And it wasn't just people from Harvard coming in giving us ideas. It was the kids going down there and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what this is what my brother, my sister, my cousin, this is what we see. And hopefully we can make a bigger difference in Chicago because of it.
I encourage everyone to talk to these students to see how we all can work together.
Chris, we were talking earlier before we got up here about some of the work that you're doing because you want to not only bridge the digital divide, but really want to level the playing field. So talk about some of the things you're doing with Chris Paul Family Foundation.
What happened for me with my foundation was me and my wife were out of school, and we were going through the whole process trying to see if our kids was going to go to this school, and it was amazing. I seen these smart boards and these MacBook computers and these nice learning labs, and as we walked around, I couldn't help but get frustrated because I knew that kids on the other side of town weren't getting these same benefits. And so that day, I remember getting in the car and I called my team that I'm blessed and fortunate to have it work for me, and I said, we're changing everything. We're changing everything. Everything that we're going to do now is about leveling the playing field. So we've had an opportunity to go in some of these underserved communities, and big thanks to the Kellogg Foundation, and we're going to continue to do work, but it's all about leveling the playing field.
Carmelo Anthony wanted to lend his voice to this discussion. Here's his take on athletes using their voices.
From my perspective, I think the key to change is just keeping the awareness, keeping the pressure on the powers that be, keeping the matters that's important at the forefront of people's minds, and not letting the events and tragedies and things that happen in our country and in the rest of the world kind of overshadow the smaller communities.
Coming up, we talk about athletes speaking out on social media.
I love the fact that you can have this voice and you can express yourself.
So Sports and Society will continue after we take this break.
So you heard that was actually Angela Rye. So excuse me from earlier, Angela Rye, who does a great job as political commentary and kind of leading more of a millennial kind of charge around social justice and social injustices. And then you had Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, that kind of thing, talking about their foundations. And there's a little bit of conversation there around social media that I want to get into in just a second. But again, what you see here over the last few years, folks, is athletes getting back involved in some of the social commentary and using those platforms to do so. As we all know, there was a time, if you look back in the 50s, 60s, and kind of maybe the early 70s, when you had Muhammad Ali and you had some of the the Celtic players and that kind of thing that were very outspoken. back in those times. And so it was costly to do so. As you know about the story of Muhammad Ali, from Cassius Clay, and how it was related to the draft for Vietnam. And there was, there was some tension with that, and it, resulted in him during his prime missing out on some years and that kind of thing from that impact of speaking out. If you come to a little bit further in time, when you get to the 90s, Muhammad Abdul-Rauf, who's formerly Chris Jackson, LSU University, Louisiana State, played for a few teams, but mostly for the Denver Nuggets. And when he announced his name change due to his religious faith and spoke out on some things, it really damaged his career to the point that he was out of the league within like a year. And you saw very recently with Colin Kaepernick with the San Francisco 49ers, where speaking out on police brutality and things like that and I don't like to use the term minority. I like to use, you have, there's groups of people, African Americans and those of ethnicity and of color, that were adversely impacted by police brutality. And there's some famous cases of that have resulted in injuries and death. That's uncalled for and should be uncalled for from any community. No community would like to have that occur to any of its citizens. And so athletes have used that platform now, getting back to doing that. There was a time you kind of got into the 80s and the 90s, and some of the contracts started getting bigger, and people saw the personal sacrifices that it was taking and toll it was taking. So the folks like Michael Jordan and not just to pick on him, but many from his generation kind of chose to be silent and just kind of play ball and do their endorsements and things like that. And so you went through this generation within the NBA where you didn't have much speaking out on the social issues and things like that. Some of that's just guys and girls, personal preferences. And then a lot of it's, like I said, there were some examples of people who suffered dire consequences from their commentary and from sharing their personal thoughts on geopolitical and macro and micro economic and social economic issues and concerns and downturns and things like that. So it's great to see, as we've gotten to a point even in professional sports, where some of the contract dollars have become astronomical, and now guys are making more money than they ever have at any point in the history of any of the professional leagues. That they're also continue to use their platform, which is now Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and those kind of things, LinkedIn to some extent, to share their views and their personality around their thoughts on some of these issues. And like LeBron James said, they do impact, for better or worse, or whether you agree with it or not, they do have an impact on a lot of youth. And a lot of people in general. So a lot of people follow and take their lead. So for them to use their powers essentially for good, to me, I think that's phenomenal. And so what I want to be able to leave you all with as you go into this week is many of you have various degrees or levels of interaction and followership, I guess is the word I'll use, for your social media platforms. And as business owners, many of you use social media, and rightfully so, as one of the primary brand awareness tools, one of the primary advertising tools, primary marketing tool. And you definitely should, and that's not going anywhere. That's going to continue. Many of you may have different thoughts on how you share your personal views, whether they're political, whether they're related to sports or related to any kind of topic. I would advise you as a best practice to not get too personal with certain things. Those certain subjects that rile people up, politics, sex, that kind of thing. Be very careful with those, with your social media. people do business with people, obviously, that they like and that they can interact with. And you could find yourself alienating your potential client base with some of your views. So do that sparingly. Some people have no, problem doing that. Certainly don't live in fear or pessimism of it. But, give good thought to how you choose to share your personal views, because one of the things with social media is it's become more ingrained in life and in society. So people use it as a vetting tool, even with your business page. So people will look at your business page. They'll see you're the admin or things like that, and they'll go to your personal page to see what you post. Even if you're not a business owner and you're in the workforce, social media is being used more and more to vet candidates. One of the first things that HR recruiters do when they pull you up is they're not just looking at your resume. They pull you up on LinkedIn. Of course, that's one of the first areas because it's for business networking. But they're also pulling up your Facebook page. They're pulling up your Instagram. They're pulling up your Twitter. And they want to see and get a sense of what kind of person that you are. What kind of things do you post? What kind of things do you like? Who are your friends, quote unquote, on the social media? Who follows you? Who do you follow? So they can see all that, from the music that you follow and listen to the books that you read or don't read, to the posts and things like that you like, the things that you share. It gives a good sense into who you are and what you value, per se. So consider all that with yourself and anybody that's associated with your business, and how they utilize social media and how you choose to utilize it. And if you're someone who's big into addressing and kind of giving your personal opinion and takes on social issues, do that. Just be careful depending on how you want your business to be viewed. Oftentimes you like to think that they're different, but they can be definitely one and the same. And your existing clientele, as well as potential clients, can all see that. So definitely be very mindful of that as you go this week and into your business, and look at and study how Laura Ingraham responded at Fox News. And you can see there's some great lessons to take from her response and what she exposed. She exposed a connection to a group of people that had been, not to say it was underground and things like that, but certainly the political climate and the nature and state of the current presidency has ignited more of an overt public kind of outcry and public persona for certain people to have those level of views. And so she was pandering to them. And then you have the athletes who don't necessarily have a political base because they're not running for office. And as Laura said, nobody voted for them, mainly Laura, because they weren't running for any office. So there's no position for them to vote on. And the other thing that Laura missed was President Donald Trump did not win the popular vote. He won the electoral vote. So sometimes what's happening when they refer to fake news and things like that is people are void of fact and data when they make comments and give their opinion. And so that's something that's grown as well. But again, social media, use it wisely, use it for your benefit. Understand that it takes time to build an audience. If you don't come with an inherent celebrator kind of background, it takes you a while to build your audience on social media. It's not a platform that's an overnight kind of thing, unless you're deep pockets and you want to invest financially in promotion and things like that. And even with that may get you some likes and some things like that, a few shares, but in terms of really building your network of people that organically engage with you, that takes time. So, don't limit yourself to it. It's one of several tools, but be very careful about how you utilize it. When you talk about some of the issues and things like that, feel free to do so. Just be extremely, extremely careful. So, what we do. This is the Minding Your Business podcast. I am your host, Ron Brooks. We got a busy week this week. I appreciate you all for all your support, for your shares, for your comments. Continue to do so on iTunes, SoundCloud, some of those areas where you find the podcast. Continue to go out there, leave 5-star positive ratings, share it with somebody. If you have a show topic idea, email it to me at ron@THEMYB podcast. So THEMYB podcast.com. That's ron@themybpodcast.com. You can interact with us on Facebook. We have the Minding Your Business podcast page. Instagram, that's me at ChampRon. Also on Twitter at ChampRon. And of course, you can catch me on LinkedIn as well. So listen, catch us later this week. We got more great episodes coming. And we're going to have an episode soon talking about Black Panther, where I can get into some of the details of the movie. I'm not going to do that because everybody had that chance to see it and I don't want to piss everybody off. So anyway, Ron Brooks, the Minding Your Business podcast. There's no business like minding your own. Peace.